Take a deep breath. Feel that stillness. Because what we're about to talk about, it's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's everything. This is where champions are built. This is where freedom begins. Jocko Willink once said, discipline equals freedom. At first, that sounds backward, doesn't it? Because we've been conditioned to believe freedom means doing whatever you want. No rules, no restrictions, no boundaries. But Jocko, a former Navy SEAL commander who's lived through the hardest realities of life and leadership, discovered something most people never do. That real freedom isn't found in chaos, it's found in control. Control of your mind, control of your body, control of your choices. Because when you master yourself, you no longer need the world to manage you. The paradox of freedom. Let's break this down. Most people chase comfort and call it freedom. They think, I don't want rules. I don't want structure. I just want to do what I feel like. But here's the problem. When you live by emotion, you become a slave to it. When you only act when you feel like it, your feelings become your master. And feelings are unreliable. They change, they fade, they lie to you. Discipline is what frees you from that prison. Because discipline gives you choice. When your alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and your body says no, discipline says, get up anyway. When the temptation comes to procrastinate, scroll, quit, delay, discipline says, stay the course. And over time, those small wins create massive freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from weakness, freedom from the weight of your own excuses. Discipline gives you the power to choose your path instead of being dragged by impulse. That's what Jocko means. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is having the power to do what's right, even when it's hard. The foundation of mastery. Let's talk about mastery. Every great leader, artist, athlete, entrepreneur, every legend you've ever admired, they all have one thing in common: discipline. Because success doesn't respond to emotion. It responds to consistency. And consistency only exists where discipline lives. Discipline is what turns goals into growth. It's what takes talent and makes it unstoppable. It's the bridge between potential and power. You can be the most gifted person in the world, but if you can't control your time, your habits, your focus, that gift will die unused. Discipline is the ultimate amplifier. It multiplies everything you are. It strengthens your will, sharpens your focus, and builds the resilience you need to win. Because the truth is, freedom is expensive, and discipline is the price. The science of structure. Now let's get practical. Why does discipline work? Because structure creates clarity, and clarity creates confidence. When your day is structured, when you have a plan, a system, a routine, you eliminate decision fatigue. You don't waste mental energy asking, what should I do next? You just do. That's why the most disciplined people often appear calm. Their structure has removed chaos. They don't need to find motivation. They've built an environment where discipline is the motivation. They know what time they wake up. They know when they train. They know when they learn, when they work, when they rest. And because of that structure, they're free. Free from confusion, free from distraction, free from the chaos that paralyzes the undisciplined. You see, most people think discipline restricts them. But in reality, discipline simplifies life. It removes noise, leaving only clarity of purpose. The warrior's mindset. Jocko Willink isn't just speaking theory. He's lived it. As a Navy SEAL commander, his days began long before sunrise. He led men into combat where every mistake could cost lives. And in that chaos, discipline wasn't optional. It was survival. He learned that emotions are fleeting, but discipline endures. That you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. And that training is built day by day through the small choices no one sees. So when he says discipline equals freedom, he's not talking about theory. He's talking about truth tested in the fire. Because when you face the hardest realities of life, you realize freedom isn't about avoiding pain. It's about mastering it. The everyday battle. Here's the truth most people avoid. Discipline is a daily war. Every morning, there's a battle between your comfort and your commitment. And every choice you make decides which side wins. Every time you say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't, you reclaim a piece of your power. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your confidence. Every time you do what's hard when you could have done what's easy, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. That's real power. Because discipline builds self-respect, and self-respect builds freedom. You stop needing approval from others because you've earned it from yourself. You stop chasing motivation because you've replaced it with mastery. You stop doubting your worth because your actions validate it every single day. That's the transformation discipline creates. The price of procrastination. Let's be brutally honest. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you pay a price. You trade future freedom for present ease. Every skipped workout, every delayed goal, every unkept promise, they're not neutral. They compound. Regret is the interest rate on undisciplined living. And over time, that debt becomes heavy. But here's the good news. You can stop the bleeding today. You can start small. One promise, one routine, one act of discipline. It might feel restrictive at first, but soon you'll feel lighter because you'll realize you're in control. Discipline is the art of saying no to what doesn't serve your future, and that's how freedom begins. When I say discipline equals freedom, I'm not talking about something abstract. I'm talking about a living, breathing system that shapes every day of your life. Let's make this real. Let's talk about how you, yes you, can build a life where freedom is no longer a dream, but a byproduct of who you are. Because if you've been waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect motivation, the perfect mood, it's time to wake up. The moment is now, and discipline is the key that unlocks it. Discipline is a skill, not a gift. Too many people think discipline is something you're born with. They look at successful people and say, of course they can wake up early. Of course they can stay focused. They just have willpower. No, they built it, brick by brick, choice by choice. Discipline is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows through resistance. When you feel tired but still take action, you're training that muscle. When you don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway, you're building strength. And every repetition counts. You can't buy discipline. You can't borrow it. You become it through consistent practice. The people who look disciplined aren't special. They're simply consistent. And consistency beats talent every single time. The habit loop of freedom. So how do you turn discipline into a way of life? It starts with habits. You see, every habit has 3 parts. 1, cue, something that triggers the behavior. 2, routine, the action you take. 3, reward, the feeling or result that reinforces it. Most people build habits that give instant rewards, but long-term pain. You scroll your phone, instant pleasure. You skip your workout, instant comfort. You spend money you don't have, instant excitement. But the pain comes later. Disciplined people reverse that. They choose habits with short-term discomfort, but long-term freedom. They wake up early, painful now, powerful later. They save money, boring now, liberating later. They say no to distractions, tough now, transformative later. That's the habit loop of freedom. You stop chasing comfort and start chasing growth. And when that shift happens, everything changes. Control your environment, control your future. Here's a truth most people overlook. Discipline isn't just about willpower. It's about environment design. You can't rely on motivation every day. It's not sustainable. But if you design your surroundings to support discipline, You don't need motivation. If your phone is full of distractions, delete the apps. If your kitchen is full of junk food, clean it out. If your friends constantly pull you toward mediocrity, change your circle. Don't expect yourself to thrive in an environment built for failure. Build an environment that makes discipline easy and automatic. That's what Jocko does. He doesn't debate whether to wake up at 4:30 a.m. His alarm goes off. He gets up. No negotiation, no mental clutter. Why? Because he removed the option of quitting. If you remove temptation, you remove weakness. If you remove chaos, you reveal clarity. And clarity is where discipline thrives. Time discipline equals life discipline. Let's talk about time. Every person on this planet gets 24 hours a day. No more, no less. So why do some people feel free while others feel trapped? The difference is how they manage those hours. The disciplined person commands their time. The undisciplined person serves it. If you don't control your time, it will control you. If you don't schedule your priorities, distractions will schedule themselves. Time discipline is the foundation of freedom. It's the awareness that every yes costs something. When you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to another. So make sure your yes is worth it. Block your time. Protect your focus. Don't let the world steal your minutes, because those minutes are your life. Remember this, the way you spend your hours determines the way you live your years. The inner voice of discipline. Now let's talk about what happens inside. You have two voices in your head. One says, take it easy, you deserve a break. The other says, do what needs to be done. The first voice is loud. It wants comfort, validation, and escape. The second voice is quiet. It speaks truth, not convenience. The disciplined person listens to the second voice, not because it's easy, but because it's right. That voice says, get up, stay focused, keep your word. Don't break your momentum. Every time you listen to it, you strengthen it. And soon it becomes the dominant voice. It becomes your identity. That's when discipline stops being something you do and becomes something you are. You no longer need motivation because you are the motivation. You no longer need external control because you've mastered internal control. And that's the truest form of freedom. Discipline is self-respect. Think about this. Every time you break a promise to yourself, your self-respect takes a hit. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, you teach your mind that your word doesn't matter. Discipline reverses that damage because every time you follow through, you rebuild trust. You prove to yourself that your word has power, and that trust becomes confidence. That confidence becomes momentum. That momentum becomes freedom. It's not about perfection. It's about integrity. Doing what you said you'd do, especially when it's inconvenient. Because freedom isn't about running from responsibility. It's about owning it. The compound effect of discipline. Here's the real magic. Discipline compounds. The same way money grows through interest, discipline grows through repetition. When you start, it's hard. It feels uncomfortable. You'll want to quit. But each small victory builds momentum. Each consistent day builds strength. Each month of focus creates exponential growth. Soon, you're no longer fighting for discipline. It's fighting for you. You wake up earlier. You think clearer. You feel stronger. You trust yourself more. That's the moment freedom begins to bloom. Because now your life isn't random. It's intentional. Your choices align with your values. Your days align with your dreams. You've built a rhythm of excellence, and that rhythm becomes unstoppable. You and I have come a long way in this episode. We've talked about what discipline is, why it matters, how it builds structure, how it creates control. But now it's time to bring it all home. Because discipline is not just a habit or a mindset. It's a way of being. It's the invisible framework that holds your life together when everything else starts to fall apart. This is where discipline becomes identity. From action to identity. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. You're literally shaping your identity one small action at a time. When you wake up early, you're voting for strength. When you train your body, you're voting for resilience. When you sit down to learn, you're voting for wisdom. When you follow through, you're voting for integrity. And those votes compound. Because identity isn't built in a day, it's built daily. One disciplined act at a time, you start to believe in yourself differently. You stop saying, I'll try, and start saying, I am the kind of person who does this. That's how discipline becomes your nature. When you internalize it, you no longer fight yourself. The war ends and freedom begins. The real freedom, inner peace. We talk a lot about freedom in terms of time and money, but the deepest form of freedom is inner peace. It's waking up in the morning knowing you're living in alignment with your purpose. It's being able to look in the mirror and say, I did what I said I would do. That's peace. And peace is power. Because when you live with discipline, you live without regret. You don't fear the future because you're building it. You don't dwell on the past because you're redeeming it through action. Discipline allows you to move forward with clarity, to make decisions from strength, not fear. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present, showing up for your life fully and consistently. The freedom formula. Let me give you the formula that every high performer lives by. Discipline, consistency, confidence, freedom. That's it. 4 steps that can redefine your life. Discipline starts the engine. You do what needs to be done. Consistency keeps it running. You do it again tomorrow. Confidence grows because you've earned your own trust. And freedom, that's the result. Freedom to live on your terms. Freedom to create what matters. Freedom to say no to what drains you and yes to what empowers you. That's the true meaning of discipline equals freedom. Training for life. Here's the truth. Discipline is a skill that must be practiced every day. You don't just get discipline once and keep it forever. You maintain it. It's like training a muscle. Stop using it and it weakens. Keep training it and it becomes unbreakable. That's why Jocko Willink still wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every single day. Not because he has to, but because it keeps him sharp. It keeps him free. So if you want to live free, train your mind to obey your values, not your emotions. Train your body to move even when it's tired. Train your will to finish what it starts. When you master that, the world opens up. Because the truth is, freedom isn't found in the absence of discipline. It's found in its presence. The mirror test. I want you to imagine this moment. You wake up tomorrow morning. You walk to the mirror, and instead of seeing someone tired, uncertain, or unfocused, you see a warrior. You see someone who's committed, someone who's consistent, someone who's in control. That reflection isn't built overnight. It's built through 1,000 small moments of discipline. Moments when you said yes to your future. Moments when you refused to quit. Moments when you showed up even when no one was watching. That reflection, that freedom, is waiting for you. But you have to earn it. And you earn it with discipline. Final challenge. So here's your challenge, your mission from this episode. For the next 7 days, live life with absolute discipline in one area of your life. Wake up at the same time. Stick to your schedule. Follow through on your word. Track it. Feel it. Watch what happens. By the end of those 7 days, you'll notice something powerful. You won't need motivation anymore. You'll have momentum. And momentum is the ultimate freedom because it carries you forward even when your feelings don't. That's what discipline does. It liberates you from hesitation. It transforms your pain into power. It turns potential into progress. because discipline is freedom. This is the Immortal Quotes Podcast. I'm your host, and I want to thank you for joining me on this journey, this mission to rediscover the wisdom that shapes extraordinary lives. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your discipline. So build it, live it, and let it set you free. If this message hit you, if you felt that fire in your chest, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because together, we're building a world where discipline becomes destiny. Subscribe to Immortal Quotes Podcast, where every episode is designed to help you grow stronger, think deeper, and live freer. And get ready, because in our next episode, we dive into a truth that takes this even further. Episode 9, Motivation Gets You Started, Habit Keeps You Going. Jim Ryan. In the next episode, we'll explore the bridge between discipline and destiny, the habits that sustain greatness. We'll talk about why motivation fades, but habits endure, and how you can design habits so powerful they carry you towards success automatically. Because once discipline lights the fire, habit keeps it burning. So stay tuned. And remember, freedom begins the moment you take command of yourself.